What a way to close the weekend. It's great to meet Amit. Amit is
Yeah.
an old friend, and he's from San Jose, and he also heads Z Nation Lab, correct?
Yep.
And what brings you to India, Amit?
You my friend.
Thank you. That's nice. Okay, guys, if you're a young startup out there who's got a MVP, a minimal viable product, which is running, which has got some POC other, you should come to Z Nation Labs and probably apply and get funded. What, you funded about 27 so far?
Yeah, we've done, I think 14 in India and close to around 13 in United States.
In the US, and about 6 million in the kitty, right?
6 million in the total fund we have deployed to the platform.
And you've had a couple of big exits. Decent exits.
Decent exit, I will say, yeah.
So
it's too early for
let's,
us to,
for those of us in India who want to understand Z Nation Lab, how does it function? What is the hypothesis of your fund?
I think we have a very simple hypothesis in terms of what we do. So what we want to be what we like to be called these are the guys who can help the high growth tech startups to create value and also unlock value for themselves and the stakeholders. So I think for us it is very critical that if you're able to, we can be in the part of the journey for creating value and unlocking value. That's where we would like to call ourselves to be an enabler for that.
So all these guys can come from any vertical: AI, SaaS, consumer tech. You have other teams like blockchain also.
So no, we've been focusing We've been focusing more on the consumer tech, enterprise SaaS and AI, because most of the people at Z Nation Lab, and I think we have 50% of our team based in Valley, and they understand those segments very well. Most of the people at Z Nation Lab have more than 15 years of professional experience, either working with large technology companies or have built one startup in any of the segments. So therefore we bring those expertise. Combined, if I would say that combined total, we would have either engaged either by building or being an investor or advisor in more than 100 startups individually, and that's where it makes us very focused towards those segments.
I want those watching this, right? Before you entered the startup world, you were a consultant.
I was an M&A expert. I was doing mergers and acquisitions for a long time. I started my career with Citibank, moved to Grant Thornton, PwC, KPMG, worked in across the globe. I worked in India, both in Mumbai and Bangalore, moved to Singapore for a while, and then since last 7 years I'm in.
So what is it about startups that interest you? I want to also draw a parallel between an Indian startup and an American startup. What are the ethos? Different value systems, different phases of growth. They think differently about tech scaling.
So this is a very interesting question, and often people do ask me. So I think this is my observation.
Please.
And what I look at when I look at startups in India and in US, I think the only distinction, if I want to make, is the approach and the mindset. And when I say is the approach and the mindset, a person who is setting up a startup or founding a startup in US would look from a top-down approach, wherein what it means is that if I'm building something, I will say that, hey, is this solution applicable in 60 countries? Can I go do a global expansion and even a person in Afghanistan can use my solution? If that is a strategy which is there, they are very clear that what they want to build, rather which has to be very simple, which has to be very classy, which has to be ease in use, and therefore you see that most of the startups which come from US are able to expand very fast because that DNA.
They've thought about the user problem.
Yeah, and very simple and global expansion. It's like a top-down approach, wherein many startups from India are just trying to first solve the India problem. They get entangled into those solving India problem, and all of a sudden some of the VC will come and tell them that, hey, we want to now expand, and then it becomes extremely critical. I mean, even the larger companies who have raised billions of dollars are now struggling and now setting up shops in Valley for getting those data scientists, etc.
I can name a couple of the cab aggregator. Definitely, I'm speaking as a journalist now. I know Ola is looking for data scientists, and so is Swiggy from across the world. Yeah, you're right. They're going to the Valley and trying to get people here now.
So then it becomes difficult and challenging at a later stage. So I think that's a fundamental difference. If you're starting as a new startup, I would say that just try to look at the top down. For that matter, if you see the startups from Israel, we often tell that Israeli startups are doing good and the technology is coming from them. It is the same approach. They are not building for themselves. Israel is such a tiny country that they are not building for themselves. From day one, they're thinking that how do global population will adapt our technologies. and that's the core DNA with which they are building, and therefore if you're building with that thing, you have to be very agile and simple, so to attract the world.
So, Z Nation at the center of it
Yeah.
wants to make Indian entrepreneurs think like that, if I'm right.
Absolutely.
And you want to take our entrepreneurs from here at, if they've got a product already running, a few clients here, you want to catch them early, take them to the US and expand globally, right?
Yeah, I think
okay. Give us some insight in your mind. I know you already told me you're looking for great teams from India with great expertise, with great killer ideas. How does your fund work? You've got 3-4 models.
So we have a process, right?
Yeah.
So I think what we do is we call it an access program. What we do is we scout for startups, for about 30 days in a month. We just do a lot of discussions.
So people just send their ideas to you.
There's a lot of applications which come, and there are a lot of referrals. Mainly the referrals coming from our founders itself.
So there's a form in the Z Nation Lab.
There's a form in the Z Nation Lab where one can
website.
apply. Post the application, if we like the startup, we do kind of a couple of rounds of interviews. And we are very conscious about those interviews. We're just not trying to see the startups, but we are also trying to see that can we add value to that startup. Whilst we are doing a startup interview, often we have seen that in post those interviews, the startup we have not engaged with have come after 3 months, 6 months, saying that hey, you have told us about this strategy, we have worked on this strategy, you have talked about a different how you want to approach the problem in a different manner. We have done that. Do you want to talk to us again? This has been in a DNA that hey, can we add value even those interviews?
Okay, in those interviews you pick how many? 7?
Post those interviews, we run a kind of a 3-day workshop. It's more like an online workshop because most of our people are based there in Valley, so we want to ensure that they also participate in discussion with the startups, and we give our thesis and DNA on how we can work together. So we do a 3-day workshop, and post that we select I think roughly around if I go back to our past average, 2 to 3 startups we engage. We intend to engage with after this workshop and try to close a deal term with
them. Does that mean money coming in, or does that mean stake for expertise offered?
So we work in a model is fairly simple, that if we go after this workshop and selection process, we'll take a 2 to 3% advisory stake, or stake for coming on the platform. We don't even call it as an advice stake. It's stake for coming on the platform, where we will do 6 things for them.
What are those 6 things?
We'll help them in technology scaling.
Okay.
By technology scaling, I mean that we have experts from SAP, Microsoft, and other large tech organization who can help you in really help you build the technology which is highly scalable.
Okay.
We help you in global expansion. We try to see that if we can flip these companies to US. Most of the companies we have recently engaged with, we have flipped them to US and then help them raise the initial fund from these techies, and then also try help them raise funds from the VCs in Valley. Once we do that, we work on their strategy for global, global expansion and do an hockey stick growth. And the India we are, being because the M&A is in my DNA, right? I've been doing this merger injection for a long time. I would want to be a part of that M&A journey. I want to give them an exit. I want to work with them to find the right partners so that we can do an exit. So that's something which we are looking at it, and then that's predominantly a 2 to 3 year of engagement, which we are looking at minimum with the startups when they come on our platform.
Okay. Before we go into some more of your models that you offer to all the startups and you help them, how mindful and how much of the skin in the game do you have as a VC? Especially when you see so much toxicity in the industry now. I mean, I can say it as a journalist, and I felt sad that Mr. VG Siddhartha passed away. It was a really sad thing for us. And the letter that is left behind is very toxic also.
Yeah.
So, but as a VC who handles money, because you have LPs that you have to satisfy, then you have to handle entrepreneurs who are brilliant in mind and idea, but execution is the key. So what do you bring into the table when you say you're going to help them with global expansion, we're going to help you with growth, we're going to get you technology that scales, or help you to scale your technology rather?
So let me give you a few examples. I think that will help you understand what we do. So recently, there's a startup called Geometry. It's an AR/VR solution company from right here.
That's
in
from
Bangalore.
your portfolio.
Yeah, that's in our portfolio now. So right here in Bangalore, they were doing AR/VR solutions for training modules and also for the e-commerce. They have some of the very good clients like Big Basket, Bosch, Reliance, Accenture in India.
Okay.
But what we realized that this startup will have 1000x more potential if we can move them to US. So the
That's
first
because
thing,
the access to clients would be more.
access to the client and the the readiness to accept those kind of solutions is much higher in US than in India. So what we did is this very simple thing. I asked the founder that, hey, take a flight and come to Valley. Stay with us for 45 days or 2 months, and then we'll explore the market. We went along with him to do some partnerships. We were able to crack the Microsoft partnership for them. We were able to create. There's a large technical,
So you're like a VC who's in. You also want to be part of its growth.
Yeah,
You're going to go talk to people all the time, saying, "Hey, do you want to work with this startup?"
I went along with him for demos. So we went and got this company called CSS Global, based out of San Diego, which does employ trainings for the US government. They are the third largest in the US government trainings, and we were able to integrate that solutions into that. So what I mean is the hockey stick growth in US is not going to come by just going and getting the clients, but you have to find the right partners. So with the partnership of Microsoft, and we have one of our friend who helped us in getting into Microsoft, and through that we were able to integrate into a lot of Microsoft clients.
I like what you're saying.
So
Amit,
that helps, and that creates a value rather than just.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the value happens only when you as a VC get involved in getting that idea to some place, right? You cannot just invest and say, "Hey, where's the growth? 10%, 20% every month, 30% have you grown?"
Especially for enterprise tech startup, it is difficult, right? Because the sales cycles are long.
Exactly.
Since the
Well
sales
said.
cycle is
Well
long, it will not. You can't expect them to automatically create magic unless until you're pumping a lot of money and just burning cash to get the customers. Then it is easy to.
That's a different way of. That's a B2C industry.
That, right?
Yes. What do you mean by hockey stick growth? Because you predominantly also fund consumption companies also, B2B also. Right. So what do you mean by hockey stick growth? Because hockey stick growth, I have never seen that in a business side of things. I've seen good amount of growth, but it's like almost like a slow line upwards rather than just like that.
So hockey stick growth, when I mean hockey stick growth, we are looking at that how innovative you could be to kind of see with the limited amount of capital you have, especially at the early stage. When I'm saying early stage, when the startup have raised only the angel round, and they are looking for raising a pre-series or a Series A round. That is a stage where the startup struggles the most. Because once you are a Series A startup, the things becomes comparatively easy because you have money in the bank. You can play with your strategy. You can figure it out. What is you can throw money on advertisement. But the stage which is like from an angel round to a Series A is the most difficult round in a stage in my view. At that stage, how wisely you're using your money. And with every dollar you're spending, how much you can generate in revenue is very, very critical. So let me give you an example. There's a startup called Office Pulse again in our portfolio. We raised a very kind of a nominal amount.
Over 50K?
I think close to around 200K or maybe 250K in the startup. We've kind of put our money and then we got some follow-on investors from our network in that startup. In a year's time, we have almost a 25 crores pipeline revenue. A startup which is paying tax.
Paying tax. You don't hear of startups paying tax in India. At least for the first
what work for them? The work. Obviously the founders founders are really brilliant and very smart. But at the same time, in the approach in which we have taken to go to the market, the way we can strategize or standardize the product, the clients which we want to choose, all those things played an important role in trying to see that how do we make this growth and try to be very very innovative about how do we approach this.
That's fantastic. For those of you who've joined us, I'm with Amit Jain, the founder of Z Nation Lab, right? And they invest anything from 50K to 200K. Would you say 100K?
Generally 50 to 100K from our 100K is an average ticket size from our side, and then almost every time we were able to get the follow-on or the simultaneous investment from some of our friends who are pretty much influential also for the startup journey.
What was your most difficult moment with the last 3 years of running the fund? What have been the difficulties and how have you handled it?
I think it's been a journey. For me, the difficulty was to find an exit opportunities for our startups in India, and that's the reason we really focused on how do we get into the partnership. The difficulty was to find the right talent. So sometimes some of our startups are, we have struggled in one or two couple of our startups. The challenge was, the team was not the time was not right. They were not able to hire the right talent. The technology was good, but the sales side was not right. The sales side was good, but the technology was not good. So there are this kind of challenges where you are not able to get the complementing skill set amongst the founders or amongst the team. That has been, I think, one of the most challenging part for our startup and therefore for us, because even though it has great potential, which we believe that can create a
Would you say your role is like that of a coach sometimes?
I think the way we would like to play is that we just want to make them aware of the situation. I often give give an example of a kind of a strange story. So if you go on these streets in India, you will find this a small girl balancing on a rope on the road.
I've seen
right?
that. Yes.
That's a kind of a thing.
It's very sad, but we see that. Yes.
So if you see what's happening there is a girl who's going from one side of the rope to the other side is just is focused. She's focused on her balance.
Yeah.
And her job is to go from one side to the other side, and so is the startups founders, right? We tell them that, hey, you have to focus on what you're doing, etc., 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 and that's what we're doing. However, every time the girl crosses the rope from one end to the other, it is not necessarily they will get the maximum value. When I say maximum value, the crowd who's going to give the money.
Give the money, yeah.
The important role is of the person who is on the street and who's either playing a dumbaroo or whatever they're doing.
Yeah, how they get that
she's doing a signal.
Yes.
So what she's doing, or the person who's there on the road, she's saying that, okay, what kind of audience is there? Is there enough attention? Are they are observing continuously about the the curiosity of the audience, and they give signals wherein all of a sudden she start balancing her more. All of a sudden she'll stop little. All of a sudden she'll go a little fast. This is all what they are doing. She's doing with her focus, but there is someone who is guiding her and just giving them.
It's collaboration.
Give them a perspective by observing things.
Yes.
So that's what we want to do it, right? I don't want to kind of step into the shoes of the founders, but I really want to give them that, have you thought about this? Do you think that, if you would have done this in a different manner, it would work better? Do you want to take some small risk or little bets? That would be more critical rather than just kind of giving them as a coach or a guide.
Okay. There's a question from the audience, and the audience says,
please.
Hockey stick growth is great, but will it be profitable and sustainable, or just a market share for customer acquisition for valuation for next round? That's a great question.
It's a good question. Depends upon what sector you are.
Let's say we are in B2B AI SaaS.
So B2B AI SaaS, if I'm there as a B2B AI SaaS, I think the most difficult part in a B2B AI SaaS, according to me, is to get the first POCs, right? I mean, whether your AI model works. I mean, it is 70%,
AI is about the data.
It's a 90%, what kind of accuracy you're giving. So those kind of things are really difficult to measure. And if you want to achieve that, you need to, my earlier strategy would be, hey, can you focus on one particular segment and get like 20 clients in that segment, rather than, trying and tackling 4 different verticals and trying to achieve the same kind of a revenue. So because, you need to figure it out that, hey, what kind of thing which you're building and what is that KPI which you measure. So the way I look at an hockey stick growth is in a particular startup, what are the 2 or 3 KPIs which are very important. And if those 2 or 3 KPIs are the most relevant KPIs for them, we look into those as a KPI. It might be,
what are those 3-4 KPIs according to you?
Often it is not the sales. Often is not the sales. So, for example, in this AI startup we were working with, our KPI was very clear that what kind of data set we are able to kind of process through our platform and give it to the clients. For me, a client with a large data set is more important than 10 clients with lesser data sets, and how do we process that data. So our KPI was very clear that how much data we are processing so that our AI will become. So it may or may not be relevant from a sales perspective, but our exit worked because we ensured that we are able to process the data and we are able to give the result through an accuracy. So I just kind of measure those KPIs which is more critical for me rather than just focusing on sales.
Interesting, great answer. You've exited Autify.
Yeah.
You've exited Indo Invest.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe a couple more on the line. I like Touch, which is another one that's raised.
They've raised
now.
money.
Right. That's an interesting company which uses AI to bring you video streams, right?
Yeah.
Shorter video streams or highlights
They're more
completely
integrated
measured.
with
I think it's
Hotstar's
data
algorithm,
tagging
yeah.
and annotating and bringing in the right content to you, right?
Yeah.
That's very interesting. So, what are your favorite, verticals in India? You've invested in electric vehicles, right? I mean, at the moment, on bikes, which started off as a IC engine, but now moved
Move
to
to
electric.
EV, yeah.
That and beautifully, I mean, I've looked at the numbers, and from a dollar to dollar basis, this startup has done very well, right? When compared to others who've been raising money but burning.
Yeah.
What's your thesis on that company? Where is that going?
I think the team is good and they are able to understand the right segment. I mean, I think we had often discussed with the founder, and the one thing which comes out from the founders, and you had interacted with them in the past, is that I want to build a business which is sustainable, which can work without even a single dollar of money from the VC investors. So they have done that. So and they have been consistently doing business in a manner that is sustainable. When some of the VCs have told them to kind of do a thing in a particular manner, and they said that this will not work in India market, and that did not.
And that proved right.
And
The
they
IC engine
proved
model is
right.
not
And
working.
the couple
Yes.
of startups have failed,
Correct.
and
Yes.
and they said no, this will not work, and we'll do this way.
Especially with the government Niti Aayog now saying by 2025 all bikes should be electric.
Yeah.
There's a bloodbath in that system.
Yeah. And then they are, I think, ahead of the curve in terms of understanding. And if someone goes to Pune and use their bikes, they will understand that what they have built.
So you
and what they
expect
have.
good things from that company going forward?
I am expecting a lot of positive things from that company.
Yeah, it's purely
Hopefully,
because
that's
India
right.
itself is heading in the right direction from EVs, or do you see how do you see India as a business destination? Do you see the policy that we're going to have what? This is the fourth stable government after Vajpayee, Manmohan Singh's 2 terms, and now 2 terms of Mr. Modi. That's what that's in total 8, 12, 16 plus probably 20 years of balanced growth in India, right?
Interestingly, but I'm a startup guy. I mean, I kind of generally don't comment on the macroeconomic things, but
it's important for you.
Currently, the sentiment in the Indian business environment is not that great. I mean, I don't know if
that's
you
an
go.
honest answer.
Yeah,
I've seen automobile sales have dropped by 40%.
Yeah, everything.
Yes.
I mean, everything right from the real estate to
NPAs,
diamond to jewelry to NBFCs to auto sector. I mean, if you go and talk to anyone in your business community, the sentiment is really, really bad.
Yeah.
So what that will lead to, if I think if some measures are not taken in kind of near term, it could get us into some kind of trouble. Or
you know how I look at it?
Yeah.
See, I mean, slow down or not, they have access to VCs like you. Ideas are amazing. Entrepreneurs should come with great ideas, and they should come work with people like you. Right, and who will fund them, and their ideas will grow, and by then 6 years the economy
I
grows.
think people want to move out. I mean, that is a
Or
challenge,
more the
right?
country. Okay.
I have met so many kind of friends of mine who have some kind of sustainable listed companies, businesses. They're like trying to say, hey, there's nothing left here. I want to buy a house in US. I want to buy a house in London. I want to do that. I want to kind of diversify out of India. That's a fear. Because a person who was, always built the business, was kind of living India for so many long years. I mean, there are groups which have like 100 years of history in India. They want to kind of now look at, some of the other countries and seeing that. So that is going to kind of, we started with the brain drain in the valley. I mean, people have moved this thing, and this might be a different kind of a drain. And this guy's an influential. Brain drain was an individual who went and kind of started working there. But if an industrialist move out, and he set up shops there, he's kind of not moving he's not going alone, but he's also taking like 1 lakh jobs he could have created here. So that's going to be a challenge if we don't see that.
Very honest. I think we're running out of time, but quickly, you have 2 more business models. I want to touch upon it. You've got Unicolist, which is basically for the founders, by the founder, by the founder.
So I'll talk about this, why we did this. So whilst we are helping startups in this global scale up, from a Z Nation Lab perspective, what we realized that it is important for us to bring a lot more people on the platform. And how do we bring a lot more people on the platform? Because we did not wanted to go to that investment route of just kind of investing in the startups. So what we did is we created something. So we have a SEBI registered AIF in India, and we also have an investment vehicle in US. So what we did with that is we created a platform wherein we invited startup founders who have either exited or have raised more than 10 to 15 million dollars in the startup who have an experience of doing that. To come and
on the platform,
come
and
on
they
the
can
platform
run
and
a
invest
kind of,
along with us.
so there'll be a
they are running a
fund kind of
syndicate.
thing.
Yeah, they are running a syndicate along with us.
So it'll be a 50-50 in the syndicate.
We've been co-investing along with them. So what
how
is
many such
helping us-
members do you have?
So it is segment wise. So we have an AI vertical where most of the techies, so almost everyone in that segment is from Valley.
Okay.
So that AI vertical was to ensure that we help startups with the money as well as the expertise in the AI.
So basically, guys, if you've done a startup, raised 10 million, or you've
Yeah,
exited
I mean,
one, you
I
can come
can
on
bet
board Z
I
Nation
mean, some of
and
the
run your
people
own scheme.
who are running this AI vertical are the best in the world. I mean, not
They're
in
all
India,
in the
but
valley, though?
yeah. At this point, all in the valley, but yeah, we'll
Okay.
soon have something.
The other one is Cop Genie, where you help 100 public listed companies get the right products from the startups out there.
Yeah, this is an initiative which started with a friend of mine because what we realized that it is very difficult for the startups in India to get access to the right audience and the customers. So you know that your product will work, but the sales cycle is very, very, very long. So what we thought is that this friend of mine, he's done more than like 120 odd listings so far, and he's by far the largest in terms of number of listings which they have done in the SME and public market segment. So what we thought is that, hey, if we can create this platform where we have currently we have 100 plus listed companies who are there on a platform to embrace the solution from the startups. They are looking at
your
innovation.
startups, any startups?
Currently we are working our startups only, but
You're opening a platform for
we started this with our corporates, our startups, but then we want to, I think we are launching this in mostly like around October, November time.
So watch out for that, guys. It's called
startups.
Cop Genie. If you want quick access to SMEs in India, and all listed SMEs, they'd all be big.
Listed companies.
So they'll all probably be 20,
companies.
30 crores or more in revenues, right? And maybe even
So
50
it's
crores.
like so that all the corporates would be 500 crores plus, so 500 crores to 5,000 crores in revenue.
Great. So by the way, I like the fact that you've got 27 now invested. You want to find 25 more, and I look forward to those great companies that come work with you. I hope your story could help you get those stories and startups too. Quickly, what are you reading currently? I know you're heavily into meditation.
Yeah.
What are you reading?
So currently I'm reading this interesting book called by Eknath Ishwar, and it is the Bhagavad Gita.
Why are you reading that?
I think most of the current, so when you relate, if you don't look at it from a religious perspective only, but if you look at the essence of what has been talked in the book and said by Lord Krishna applies very, very practically in today's world. So what is happening is that when you're dealing with someone, when you're negotiating with someone, when you're dealing with the stress, because of not able to raise the funds, because of your team is not performing the way you wanted. So there are so many real life situations you come across, and this book is kind of very, it has kind of narrated those things in a very practical manner, and I kind of found it very interesting when I kind of glanced into it, and I'm just kind of.
That's interesting. It's also a Bhagavad Gita, as I say, it is a conversation between two warriors, right? So, which is Krishna and Arjuna, and it's also Krishna being the guide. He's like the $1 billion coach that Eric Schmidt says, Bill Campbell. It's something like that. So, on that note, guys, it's been wonderful, Amit.
Thank you.
See you in San Jose again soon,
Yes,
and you guys apply to Z Nation Lab. Check out. You could be one of those 25 startups that can get 100K or more.
Thank you for the talk. It was really good talking to you.
Bye.
Bye. See you guys.